Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Anthony. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Anthony, before we dive in though, let's get to know you. Tell us about who you are, your background, and then 2 questions we ask all of our guests. What do you love about content and marketing?
So I started my career in the media agency space where I really learned how to leverage human insights and inform marketing and then invest marketing budget to drive performance. And these are really cornerstones throughout my career. I got to work with some really large companies like Nestle and Novartis, and then all the way to really small emerging startups. And I had a variety of roles throughout the 10 years or so as agencies, both in New York as well as in Dubai. I worked with clients directly, strategy, media investment, business development, and also starting our innovation practice in the Middle East. So some really interesting and insightful roles for me. And as I was working in the innovation role, I realized I wanted to put more of my time towards helping high growth companies grow through marketing. So that's what I've been doing about the last 8 years. Been really across different industries, direct to consumer, mobility, community, and then currently with my role in health tech with Sermo. And my current role, I oversee growth marketing for all the member touch points that we have for prospective and existing members of our community. And out of all the different activities that my team and I do, content is really the area where I particularly gravitate towards. I think it's in the trust that it can build with our audience, helping to provide value with them, to them, which I think is where we'll spend some time today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So we're going to dive right in. You had the perfect segue. Really what we're going to talk about today is how to build trust with our audience through our content. Now, trust is something that businesses absolutely have to earn, and it's something you have to work toward. Really, Anthony, when you look at it through content, how do we start to build that trust and why is it so important?
So it starts with gaining firsthand insights into our audience. And I think sometimes we have more ways to do that than maybe a traditional marketer might think. One of the areas that I've spent a lot of time is working closely with our customer support or member support in my current role. And thankfully, we've moved member support into my team about a year and a half ago. And it's just been strategically so important for us. They're the people who get the most firsthand information from our members. They're hearing it every day, both the good and certainly the bad. Whatever comes from, our members or prospective members' minds and the things that they're interested in comes to our member solutions team. So it's so important that we leverage that information to create content both for prospective members that can help us to bring new people into the community, and also our existing members to inform our support articles and the ongoing content that we produce for our members.
I love it. So when you're working with the member services team, what does that logistically look like? How are you interacting with them? How are you extracting those insights and those nuggets of information to say, our audience really cares about this? Like, what are we going to create and how does this build trust? What does that look like from meetings and gathering information? How do you really get to that information?
Yeah, so part of it is setting up the data so that we can track the conversations and the interactions that we're having with members and prospective members. So we make sure that we categorize the conversation into areas that can kind of organize those into different themes of either areas of interest or opportunity or areas of concern. And then within there, we can look at some of the conversations to see what are the areas that maybe we aren't covering already as much as we could be. We were doing this very manually up until very recently, but thankfully AI is helping us to do this a lot easier, where before we could look at a certain percentage of our conversations one by one, and we would combine that with having discussions with the member solutions agents themselves, and we get anecdotal information. Now we are implementing an AI tool that's going to extract, categorize, and produce insights for 100% of the interactions that we have.
I love that. That's cool. We're not sponsored by any different service that we're going to talk about right here, but maybe are you comfortable sharing what the tool is or any of that kind of stuff?
Sure. We work with Zendesk, and they're putting out a lot of really useful new AI features, and we've been right at the forefront of that, being involved in any beta test that they have available.
Very cool. Now, I've always been curious, and I've always wanted to do this, but it's kind of a touchy thing to do. You have to make sure that everything's okay on the legal front and you get compliance. But how are you extracting even like testimonials or quotes or direct information from your customers or potential customers and embedding that into the content? Do you have a good process for that? How does that play a role in building trust and really getting those direct quotes from the individuals that you're working with?
Yeah, so we set up a process at the last company I worked at, Ourbus, where we knew how, and they're a mobility tech company that helps people to take intercity bus trips. And that decision process for purchasing a bus ticket relies a lot on customer testimonials and ratings. So we knew that was a really key factor in the process for customers. And previously, we had just been letting this happen organically. We had good ratings, but they weren't great. So when we started to focus on it, we chose two platforms, Trustpilot and Google, as the ones that were most important in our category. And then we looked at the pathways to encourage someone to leave a review. And they were slightly different. Trustpilot has this automated sequence that leads someone through the process to create a review. Google just has a single link that takes people to the page where they leave a review. So for Trustpilot, we embedded this into an automated email sequence, because that way we can do this reliably and personalized. And there were a few reminders that went out to customers. So that way it sort of flowed naturally. Once we set up the automation, that was really working in an ongoing process. For Google, we decided to do a little more hand-holding, and that was done with our customer support team. So after an interaction, they would personally ask customers, would you like us to send you a link to leave a Google review? And then if they said yes, we would then send them that link, and a lot of them did review us. We were able to increase our rating from a 3.7 to a 4.4 in about 6 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And we got over 2,000 reviews on Trustpilot about the same time period. And then once we had that, those are publicly available. So then we do have the ability to use those. We took them, and you can still see it embedded on the website with Ourbus, all the ratings and the testimonials there. And then we would take selected ones and use them in ads. We did some interesting testing through Facebook ads, where we tested testimonial messages against other types of messages. And very often the testimonial messages would rank towards the top in terms of performance.
I love that. So diving into the testimonial side of things, because I think this is one of the greatest things you can do as far as your content goes. And I love this strategy and the focus and everything that you're doing here. How do you take those reviews? And you said once they're public, you can use them and you use it in your different material. But how do you make it feel authentic, right? Because sometimes when like people just huck in a quote, sometimes they're like, well, is that real? Or what does that really look and feel like? So I guess, two-part question. One, how do you make it feel authentic and real? And number two, what are some of the other places you use those testimonials and quotes to help fuel the rest of your content and marketing efforts?
Yeah, great questions. And it does start with understanding the audience and trying to anticipate what their intent is and what their questions may be and who they are. So with Sermo, for instance, we integrate testimonials that we think are going to be in a similar category or segment as the person who's looking at that page. Are they from the US? Are they from the UK or another country? Let's match that with a testimonial from the same country. Also, their specialty. Are they an oncologist or a dermatologist? Let's try to match that as much as we can. And that also requires us to have a pretty large library of testimonials to match all the different segments that are available. So that's one. aspect that we look into. And then as we're creating SEO content, we want those testimonials and those reviews to be present. So we have a module that we put within our articles that highlight these ratings. So when someone's coming from the Google or another search results page, most likely they're going to be someone who's not familiar with Sermo yet, or at least not a member, and they're reading through our content. That reinforces the credibility that we have and brings forward the experience that members are having within the community.
I love that. That's super cool. You mentioned you have to collect a large database of testimonials. So you've got these efforts to get Google reviews, Trustpilot, other different platforms. If you're in technology, it's probably G2, things of that nature. And you're storing them and then you're utilizing that in other material. How do you organize that? Just from like a logistical, is this a Google Drive or something like that? How are you actually storing and finding and embedding that into your process so you're not just writing content without looking and finding good opportunities to embed these testimonials?
We're really getting to the nuts and bolts of it. Love it.
So I love tactical. I'm such
Yeah.
a nerd when it gets to the tactical. So I'd love to get your insights.
That's how it really happens in marketing. Absolutely. So yeah, we have an Excel sheet where we keep all the different reviews in there, text reviews, and we have, we're able to categorize them by country, by specialty, and by the topic that that review was speaking about, whether it's, let's say, our community in general, or earning opportunities that they found enjoyable and favorable, or our drug ratings and getting really valuable information from our drug ratings database. So we create topic tags for each of those testimonials, and that's where the text ones live. And then in our internal share drive folder, we have all the video files and audio files for anything that's not text-based, and those are also categorized according to the different topics that they're speaking about.
Very cool. And when you're doing the outreach to these individuals, like you mentioned, hey, would you like to leave a Google review? What are some good strategies to actually get people to feel comfortable or even excited to give you these testimonials, whether they be in video or written format? Any tips or tricks that you found there to collect even more of them?
Just showing them how important it is, both how important their opinion is to us and how we really do value that, and being open to any feedback that they may have. I think, we want to open ourselves up to positive or negative feedback from our members, from our customers, and know that they have an outlet to contact us for whatever opinion they may have. And, more often than not, that's very positive opinions, which is great. That means we're doing something right. And then when there are other things shared where we can improve, we take action on those. So it's showing them that the value of what they're doing. And sometimes, especially when it comes from a member solutions person, it helps to express how important that feedback is for them, and making sure that they're doing a good job and getting the valuable information that member wants.
I love that. So what you just said really, for me, brings the whole conversation full circle. I mean, really, we set out to have this conversation about how to use your content to build trust. And obviously collecting direct quotes and testimonials and using that in the right place really helps people feel and believe and understand your brand and your company. But what I love is you've taken it a step further. In the collection of that content, you're also building trust with those individuals that your feedback matters. It's important to the business. It's important to you. If there is something that we need to improve, we want to listen. We want to take care of that. So you've built this really cool machine where you're building trust on all fronts, and you're using that collection as another touch point to build trust. And I think that that's a really cool full circle moment to say, we care in all fronts of what we're doing. So I think that that is a remarkable system. I love how you have that thoughtful approach. One final question for you, because these episodes go by so quickly. What is one of the coolest ways, and I'm going to throw you a curveball here, so I apologize. What is one of the most interesting and fun ways that you found to use testimonials in your materials, whether it's on the website and other advertising materials? You mentioned pay-per-click and things of that nature. What are some really cool ways to use these testimonials that people may not originally have thought of using?
Yeah. So one of the places where we've used testimonials in the past is in our welcome series, and we actually had a video testimonial of a few members talking about what they get from the community, and then encouraging others to check out similar areas and encourage them to get value from the same things that they did. So it's a nice way for new members to hear not from the brand or the marketing team, but from their peers what they can expect.
I love that. I think that's a really cool use case of how to use your content and embrace people, bring them into the community. And right there, it's onboarding. And I think a lot of times marketers aren't even thinking about that. It's purely, how do I get to engage with prospective customers? And right there, you've taken it yet another step further and kind of embraced that all around. And again, that's trust. If people are willing to share materials about how to use this community, they probably really like it, and that probably builds some trust. And so I think that, again, you're using it in so many cool ways. I love this concept. It's got my wheels really going because there's like a million new ways I need to use my testimonials and what I should do with it. So Anthony, I've loved this conversation, and sadly, we've kind of come to the end of it because we want to keep these short and sweet. But if anyone wants to reach out and continue the conversation and connect with you, how and where can they find you?
Sure. LinkedIn is a good place, Anthony Giordano, or you can check out my website, thegrowthprinciples.com. And you can also read some more of my work in an upcoming book that I'm contributing to. It's guide to growthhacking.com, and it's a collection of marketers who have grown Fortune 1000 companies, sharing their inside tips and things that have worked for them to help other marketers and growth experts to level up their skills.
I love it. I love it. That sounds like a fascinating book. I'm excited to hear about it. So thanks again, Anthony. Appreciate the time today.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Great to talk with you.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.